The stage was now set for a form of healthcare that would endure for almost 500 years. One cultural anchor of these practices was a small region in southeast France, a place where care, compassion, and respect for the human condition flourished.
Well, this tradition, this Ars Moriendi, was not just something for the elite few. This wasn't just for people who were living monastic lives or who were ordained or who were intellectually savvy or who were wealthy or part of the royalty. I think what really is remarkable about this tradition is for almost 500 years, this becomes mainstreamed into European culture and consciousness. Up until 1492, this becomes the way in which people in Europe, many of our ancestors, dealt with suffering, with life, and with death itself. One of the places that you can really still capture this is in a place I like to call France's Golden Triangle. So we've learned about Cluny and that monastery, that large abbey. Well, just a few miles down, about 7 miles down the road from Cluny, is a town called Thésée. And a few miles further in the triangle is a town called Beaune. This is all in Burgundy, France. Thésée is known to a lot of people today because of the modern Thésée music movement that took place there because of the work of Brother Roger of Thésée. And the use of the Psalms there in helping heal Europe after the Second World War is definitely related to the tradition of Cluny, because both Jews and Christians were wounded during the war, and those young people who lived in the orphanages and in the schools of Brother Roger of Thésée used the Psalms as a way of healing. Very modern application. But down the road further in the town of Beaune, France, is one of the last great hospices in Europe, built in the 15th century just before the whole movement came to an end. So because that hospice is still there, you can go and visit it today, it's a great museum, it becomes a place where we can really catch a glimpse into the amazing architecture and history of what was going on just before the Ars Moriendi tradition came to an end. Beaune is remarkable. People who have gone there, we've led some pilgrimage groups there over the years, and you're just almost led to silence when you walk into a place where for centuries people were not just dying, but tending to the sick, the poorest of the poor. Here you have a place that looks palatial. It's a place of royalty, built to house, built for the beds of those who probably had never slept in a bed in their lives. The town begins at this time to distinguish itself, not by how much money it puts into warfare or its army, but how well it cares for the poor. So it's just a remarkable kind of vision. And in this hospice, which is built over a river, it's a remarkable kind of thing. It's not real smart architecturally to build a building over a river. But they did that because then part of the floor was made of glass, tiny pieces of leaded glass in the Middle Ages, so that people could see and hear the sound of water. Talk about holistic medicine. They knew that there was something about the sound of water that was healing for people, that was cathartic. If nothing else, it helps a person eliminate better. We know that for a fact. But in these individual beds, the poor were given royal treatment. And one of the things that just amazed me was when in our work and with archaeologists and with historians in Beaune, we were taken to see some of the original instruments that were used in the hospice at that time. Again, hospice not just for the dying, but for a person at any level of illness. There were the golden instruments used to contain the holy oils for the anointings of the body, those rich aromatic oils that would help comfort a person in their illness. There were gold-plated dinnerware and cups, again, that a person who was sick and dying would be treated really as royalty would be treated. And then there was the gold-plated bedpan. I had never seen anything like it. The bedpan actually not looking all that different in design from our modern bedpans. And I remember asking the historian in the museum, why would they have done this? And he said to me, because every aspect of a person who is suffering is sacred in this tradition. That's why it's called the sacred art of living and dying. Every aspect. I mean, imagine today gold-plated bedpans and dishware. Imagine our HMOs coming to grips with that kind of thing. And here you have a society that was so dedicated to the care and dedicated to the care of the sick because they believed that something of benefit came through to those who cared for them. That all of society benefited when we really gave that kind of treatment. But you notice the beehive of activity of people bringing food to the sick. The women who are wearing these veils are the nurses of the day. Children playing, animals being brought in for comfort, musicians playing instruments, prayer being said down in the sanctuary, and the bedpans all together. The caption on the artist's rendition that has become so famous of the Bone Hospital says, "A Sunday morning in the Hall of the Poor." Now, where is it happening? Where do you hang out on Sunday? To find life, to find meaning? In the hospice. And that became just a vision. And I think in some ways it began to activate our imaginations to bring an aspect of this back for our world today. The sacred art of living and the sacred art of dying are not separate. They're two sides of the same coin.